Welcome to the special edition of Chief Talk, where Chief Walther goes on the Mike Broomhead Show.
Hey, thanks for being here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from the Mike Broomhead Show. It is not often that you see a crime reported that gets national attention, but when you see a multi-jurisdictional bust that happens right here, Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's 1.7 million fentanyl pills, $9 million street value. It starts to get people's attention, realizing how deadly this drug fentanyl is in such a small form and how many deaths are happening. This is a major, major arrest. So joining us right now is the Scottsdale Police Chief, Jeff Walther. Chief, thanks first for coming on. Can you kind of let us know how many agencies were involved in this and how long did it take?
You bet, Mike. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I think it's great that you're giving voice to this issue because it's really exploding around the country and certainly around the Valley. And so the agencies involved were really, to kind of give you the background, is that there's been a Scottsdale DEA task force in Scottsdale that's worked out of Scottsdale, one of my facilities, with a number of DEA agents and 6 Scottsdale PD detectives and a sergeant. And that's been nigh on about almost 20 years that we've had that task force here. And so it was those two agencies working together as a singular squad that has been working this case over the last few months that really came to a head this week with a singular arrest and the seizure of the nearly 1.7 million pills, fentanyl pills, and a host of others. In fact, one of the others that I think is important to talk about is the 10 kilos of powdered fentanyl that we're going to turn around and make another couple million pills. So it was a significant seizure, the largest to date in Arizona, and one of, if not the largest seizures for the DEA in the entire country.
When you talk about 10 kilos, they say that a piece of fentanyl the size of a grain of salt could kill someone, and you're talking about 10 kilos of the powder. That should be staggering to everyone.
Totally agree. And that's, it's interesting. If you saw the press conference yesterday, and we had a portion of that 1.7 million pills at the press conference, but what we did not have was the powder, because that powder is so dangerous that as soon as, if you inhale just a very, very small amount, it can kill you. And so that's some of my discussion yesterday, along with DEA Special Agent in Charge of the Phoenix area, H.E.a.T, and Attorney General Mark Broomhead, and the discussion about that in my comment, which is really important, I think, to the overall discussion here in the Valley and in the nation, which is that this is not a recreational drug. This is death. This will kill you, and it continues to kill Arizonans and Americans on a daily basis.
How do you have to adjust? Your officers have to adjust in handling drugs, the ones that have been doing this for a long time, because as you state, just breathing it in is deadly. And let's face it, you are not dealing with people that are concerned about sanitary situations. It must adjust how you deal with when you go into a place, that how dangerous it could be to your officers.
Absolutely. That's a great question, Mike. And we have really worked at training our officers, as have all Valley agencies, in really identifying powdered fentanyl or any powder that they come across in a known drug-related case, and how we handle that. So extensive training, stay away from it, and how we package that or attempt to package that, impound that for evidentiary purposes. It can be labor intensive, and a lot of training has gone into that.
Scottsdale Police Chief Jeff Walther is joining us. There's two things that when I've talked to so many groups of people, there's an organization in Arizona called Not My Kid, because many parents think that it's not going to happen in their neighborhood when it's drugs or human trafficking, that it's everywhere. And I think it happening in Scottsdale, this arrest happening in the city of Scottsdale, has got to open people's eyes that it's everywhere.
It is, and I think you make a great point. Is that the Phoenix metropolitan area is exactly just that. There are no boundaries from city to city, and so there's no corner of our valley and our state that is untouched by this type of activity and this number. This quantity of drugs. I mean, this quantity of drugs is just staggering. But I think it's really just a drop in the bucket ultimately. I think this is just one that we interdicted. I think you're seeing this, and this quantity would have gone throughout Arizona and gone throughout the country. That's the sheer size and magnitude of these numbers. But one other area, Mike, that I think you just mentioned, which is really important, and although is not connected to yesterday's press conference or the seizure, is in the human and sex trafficking. And we rolled out this year a new human exploitation and trafficking unit with the Scottsdale Police Department. We've always been doing these cases, but what we found is that in the city of Phoenix or the city of Scottsdale, they tend to have a high volume of human trafficking due to the size and the mega events that come to Scottsdale. And so we've now been one of the more prolific units, human exploitation and trafficking units in the Valley with our partners in Phoenix PD and Mesa PD in particular, really working a lot of these cases. So I think it's important, just like yesterday's discussion and briefing on this sizable seizure, that we also have to look at how human exploitation and trafficking has just exploded around the Valley, and no area of the Valley is untouched from that either.
One of the people that opened my eyes and was instrumental in me speaking out about this was one of your former officers who's now retired, Tanya Corder, who used to do things with, and she spoke at a couple of events we had, and you could see parents' eyes wide open when she began to speak about how this happens. And what would you say to parents out there, whether it's human trafficking or this drug trafficking? What should parents be looking for, and how can they best protect their kids?
Wow, that's a loaded one, because my opinions as a police chief and as a father of adult children sometimes aren't popular in today's current society, and that's, you must be actively involved in the lives of your children. You must get involved in their social media accounts, as you see social media continue to explode, and new platform after new platform, be it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all of these. Your kids are communicating. Look at their phones. Look for these apps where they can communicate secretly to one another. You have to be actively involved in the inner recesses of their lives, so you understand who they're communicating with on the internet. The internet is I like to look at the internet, and smartphones are incredible tools, incredible productivity tools, but they're also incredible productivity tools of the criminals. And so they're using those to groom your children. They're using those to sell drugs. You have to be deeply and actively involved in the lives of your children and what they're doing on their smartphones, who their friends are, where they're going. You have to recognize when your children, and a lot of our children are in mental health crisis, and then get them the help that they need. That's what will prevent this from spinning out of control, because, Mike, we're at a precipice here in relation to our children and the amount of recreational drug use, fentanyl overdoses, and the human trafficking that's going on, that if we don't really get a grasp of what's going on, we're going to lose a generation here.
And finally, before I let you go, we say often that, and you mentioned it about your partners and other agencies around the Valley, it's a family in law enforcement. The tragic shooting of a Phoenix officer, Tyler Moldovan, this week, it has to send ripple effects across this entire Valley. What do you say to your agency and the members of your agency when something tragic like this happens?
Absolutely, and Chief Williams and I from Phoenix are good friends, and we had conversation over via some texts when Tyler was shot, and so we are a very close community, very tight with one another. We work with each other regularly, and the conversations that I have with my folks and other law enforcement agencies is that I think we have to recognize in our state and in our country that law enforcement stands that line, and it's important to stand that line when you recognize, and I share, and I think sometimes it's an unpopular thought process, is that today in our country, in our state, the vast majority of people are either unable or unwilling to protect themselves. So what you have come forward is incredible men and women who raise their hand and they say, I want to do that. I want to protect those people in a time of need. I want to stand the line against the criminal element. I want to serve. Do we make mistakes? Certainly we do. But at the heart of that is a spirit of service. And my folks, they see what happened in Phoenix with Officer Moldovan, and they look at it and say, I'm not going to let that deter me. I'm going to stand the line. I'm going to protect those who can't protect themselves. And that is that line between, I really think, between civilized society and anarchy. And so we have incredible men and women who stand that line and stand to protect one another. And our hearts go out to Phoenix, our brothers and sisters in Phoenix PD, and we're praying for Tyler every day. But that's something we have to look at as a society and start to re-embrace that thought process.
Well, Chief, thanks for, first of all, congratulations on this effort by your agency with the other agencies involved. And thank you for the work that you do. If you'll pass that along to the members of your agency, we look forward to talking to you in the new year.
Will do. Thanks, Mike, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into this special edition of Chief Talk with Chief Jeff Walther on the Mike Broomhead Show. Come back later this month where we talk to Ivan Gilreath from the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Scottsdale. And if you should need us, give us a call, 480-312-5000. Until next time, keep yourself and your loved ones safe. And remember to be more.